Now, I'm going to string together a bunch of clips of various people down in Little Havana, and the one characteristic that the majority of them, not all, but the majority of them have, are that the people who actually came out of Cuba, the majority of them don't speak English. Out of all the people that I have on this clip, and I didn't get every last one of them, and I didn't watch every single channel, but the majority of them, okay, other than three people didn't speak English, okay? Now, the other characteristic that the majority of the people had that left Cuba, they had money, or they had a saleable, marketable trade, okay? There's one guy whose parents came out of Cuba that out of his own mouth, he's going to tell you that his parents made their way to California and they got on welfare. So check out these various clips, and then I'm going to make a comment at the end of it.
That is here celebrating is from Cuba. Jessica, who was born in Venezuela, and her parents, who are from Cuba, Havana. Now, your parents don't really speak English, so we're going to do a little bit of translation. ¿Cómo te sientes en este momento? How do you feel right now?
Muy feliz.
I feel very happy. ¿Por qué? Wow.
Se ha ido del mundo el tirano más HP que ha existido en Cuba, que ha separado a la familia, que ha hecho sufrir a mucha gente, que el Estado.
Okay, so I'll translate. What he's talking about is that with Fidel Castro's rule, there has been much suffering. Families have been separated. His is a perfect example of a family that's been separated. Tu familia está separado y tu padre or tu madre todavía están viviendo. Okay, his parents died in Cuba, and I'll ask him now whether he could actually go to Cuba to their funeral. Y cuando murieron, ¿usted podría ir para visitarlos?
No me dejaron entrar. Yo pedí permiso para ir a ver. Primero se murió mi papá y después se murió mi mamá.
And he said when his father died and his mother died, he asked for permission to go back to Cuba, but he wasn't allowed. His and his wife's route was out of Cuba to Venezuela, where there still is a very strong relationship, and he went as an electrician and then left Venezuela and made his way here to South Florida. His daughter was born in Venezuela. Tell me what your thoughts are. You don't really know Cuba the way your parents do, but you've been hearing the stories your whole life.
Right. Ever since this is a topic that really gets to me. Ever since I was very small, I've been hearing stories of cruelty and oppression. My godfather, he was a political prisoner as well. My cousins came on a raft with my 7-year-old cousin on that raft at the same time. And you know, you just hear so many stories of people immigrating toward different places. I have cousins in Italy, I have cousins in Spain, and we all kind of just had to separate. We leave our cultures behind, leave our families, leave everything we know.
And this all leads back to Fidel Castro's rule and turning the country to a socialist, communist country.
Correct. Had this not happened, perhaps not that many people would have been separated. I mean, obviously, ever since he came into power, he started chasing people because of their religious beliefs, homosexuals. If you weren't okay with the government or you spoke against the government, you would also get persecuted. And in the Peter Pan, parents...
Right, so let's explain that. There were a lot of people who don't know what the Peter Pan flights are. Pedro Pan were flights where families could actually take their children, put them on planes in the 60s and send them actually to here to Miami. And that was a separated family. The Catholic Church brought the children in, found them places to live. Eventually, those parents were able to get out of Cuba, but a very difficult time for the parents to leave the country, to stay behind as they were sending their children out. We understand your celebration across the country. There are people across the world, of course, who see this completely differently. This is the Cuban diaspora here. Nara, back to you. They're dancing, very excited. They've been actually out here for a very long time, since they first got word that Fidel Castro had passed away. Now, if you're watching this and you're wondering why people are celebrating somebody's death, it's to understand the experience of people who actually came here from Cuba against their will. Those are the exiles. Usted es exilio. Usted es exilio. Yes, this woman here is an exile. The folks who were forced out of their country when Fidel Castro came to power, people who didn't support him, people who lost their businesses, lost their homes, lost friends, some who were imprisoned, many people who felt that they could not stay in Cuba. In fact, many who have never returned, waiting for Fidel Castro and now Raul Castro to die. ¿Usted ha regresado a Cuba?
No, never.
She never went back to Cuba.
When I was a student in the university, Fidel Castro wanted to kill me because he said that I was against everything that he said.
He wanted to kill you.
He wanted to kill me.
Okay.
I left Cuba in 1959 because the other way they would put me in jail or killing me.
Thank you very much. I understand, and many people
I
understand.
lost a family.
She lost a family, and so many people have stories like that. And of course, we know people who came over on rafts, people who then came in the 80s in the Mario boat lift. In fact, where I am here in Greater Miami, there's more than 1.2 million Cuban Americans here. We're going to just sort of give you a peek of the street out here. There, you can see now.
Well, it's a mix of emotions, and personally, I think that it's unfortunate that nature took him away. But I think this may be the beginning of the end of the Castro regimes in Cuba and the beginning of the freedom for the Cuban people.
Okay, so many people left Cuba beginning back in the late 1959, 1960. Many different routes. Some people left back then. Exiles, others left for economic reasons in the 80s, and then later. You left Cuba from where? First of all, what part of Cuba did you leave from?
In Havana, the capital.
And then you went not directly to the United States. You took an interesting route.
I took a back route to Paris in France, and then I came to the U.S.
Now, this guy had money because he went from Cuba to Paris, okay, and then from Paris he came into the U.S. So this is one of the guys who had money.
The reason that I left my country was for political reasons.
So tell me now, Fidel Castro really has not been in power for 4 or 5 years. Raul has been running things, his brother. How do you think his death symbolically suggests that there's change on the horizon?
Well, it's true that he hasn't been in power for 4 or 5 years, but still he was the maximum figure, and I think this is going to mean a change on certain of the policies of the Cuban regime.
So you have your children here. They were born in the United States, correct?
Both born in U.S.
They've never been to Cuba?
This one did it when he was 1 year old.
Okay, so you really don't know Cuba. All they know is what you've told them about Fidel Castro. Do you think that your children will have an opportunity soon to go to a country that is not under a Castro rule, whether now being Raul Castro?
That will be the only condition that we will go back to Cuba when all the liberties and the freedom and democracies is established in Cuba. Other than that, we wouldn't come back.
Yeah, well, you got a long wait, buddy.
Okay.
And actually, I think he may say something.
Okay, there we go. Doesn't need much translation, but
Okay, and the kid is going based on what the parents are telling him.
here is Carlos. Carlos, how do you feel right now? ¿Cómo te sientes?
Yo me siento bien,
I feel good.
estoy contento por lo que está
I'm
pasando.
happy. I'm happy for what's happened.
Sí.
¿Y cuál es el futuro de tu país? What do you think the future is for your country in Cuba?
Yo pienso que no va a cambiar en
I
nada.
don't think anything's going to change, no.
Yo pienso que va a seguir igual.
I think it's going to continue equally.
La solución de Cuba está en los cubanos que están dentro de Cuba.
The solution of what could happen in Cuba towards democracy is with the Cubans in Cuba, not here.
Exactly, and this guy is one of the few people that I've seen that basically understands that it's not about what the United States wants to happen in Cuba, it's what the Cuban people want to happen in Cuba.
Usted salió de Cuba cuando? When did you leave the country?
Yo salí de Cuba en 1980 cuando la flotilla del Mariel.
He came in a Mariel boat lift, which of course was a very controversial boat lift because Fidel Castro not only allowed people to get on boats and come to the United States, but he also emptied the prisons and the insane asylums of many people who then became a problem in this community. That's long been solved here, long been sorted out. Carlos, thank you very much. I'm going to talk to un placer. We'll talk to this gentleman over here. Hi, what's your name, sir?
Elio Hernandez.
How do you feel right now?
My English no is very good.
Okay, ¿cómo te sientes ahora?
No, para mí es el día más feliz de mi vida.
It's the day that's more happy of my life.
Yeah.
It's the happiest day you've had in your life.
El más feliz de mi vida. Yo creo que no va a existir otro día más feliz.
He doesn't think that there's going to be a day as happy for him as there is right now.
Ahora espero que con Donald Trump el día 20 que cancele todos los beneficios que le ha dado el gobierno, porque en sí
Wait. So what he's talking about now is the recent election of Donald Trump, and he's hoping that Donald Trump will cut out all of the benefits, as he calls them, between the United States and Cuba. Thank you very
Yeah, and that ain't gonna happen.
much. And what he's talking about is the sense of not only renewed diplomatic relations, but the fact that there are now regular commercial flights to Cuba. Many in the Cuban community here, the Cuban American community, feel that these increased relations mean more money to the communist government in Cuba, and that money goes to support them. It's been a steady parade, and I think there's going to be a parade here all day.
All right, but this piece is a piece that really bugged me about this particular clip.
Let's walk down here real quickly because I think I hear a little bit of singing as well. Let's just listen in here. All right. Cantando.
estábamos cantando por la muerte de Castro. No puedo.
Okay, see, drop his heart.
Yes. We are so happy because we think we are free and we have the opportunity to do something with our country because the dictator is dying.
Okay. Thank you very much.
See, and this piece is the piece that bugged me because you can take these two guys and go stick them any place else in the country, go stick them down in Mississippi or Alabama, and they're not going to see two Cubans. They're going to see two black people, and they are going to receive the requisite treatment that black people receive. So you could jump up and down about Castro being gone, but the one thing about Castro was that the poor people, the people that have skin colors like you guys, all of a sudden they have universal health care. They have universal education. So yeah, jump up and down all you want, but I think you're jumping up and down about the wrong thing.
Left the island, especially the exiles back in the early 60s, because when Fidel Castro came to power, he took land, he took businesses, and in many times actually imprisoned people, tortured them. And so these are the memories that you see bubbling up here. And while some of these people are awfully young and certainly wouldn't remember that, they've heard the stories from their parents and their grandparents. And do you speak English?
I speak good English,
Okay,
no problem.
thank you very much. Are you Cuban American?
Yes, I am.
How do you feel tonight?
I have this joy for my grandmother who's not here to see this. And my parents who are here in the United States, and I just wanted to be here for them and celebrate with everybody else here.
Tell me your story. Your family is from what part of Cuba? When did they leave the island?
My dad's from Havana, my mother's from Santiago. They escaped in 1963. 4 days in the Gulf of Mexico, ended up in Cozumel. From Cozumel, they went to Merida, the Yucatan, Mexico City. My mother, I'm the Liberty baby. My mother was 7 months pregnant with me, and I was born in Los Angeles. So I'm actually a welfare baby.
Now you heard him say it himself, that he's a welfare baby, i.e. his parents, okay, who weren't even U.S. citizens, were able to get the public assistance in order for them to survive, okay?
And your family came with in a boat?
In a boat, 4 days. It was the largest escape, 93 Cubans at one time. The captain was in on it, they made it look like a mutiny.
and they were all scared because they didn't know if someone was going to be working for the government. And they ended up in Mexico on Cozumel.
Okay, so let's explain the story, because people are looking at this, they're seeing celebrations, and they're hearing about a head of state dying. So you have to explain to our nation, why would people celebrate, clap, be thrilled at somebody's death? It's more the symbolic passing of a, would you call him a dictator?
Yeah, I would call him a dictator, a thug, a murderer. He's our version of Hitler, or my parents' version of Hitler, and everything that is wrong that a human being can do. And all they ever did is divide families. I mean, what does it take for a country to send their children out through the Peter Pan stories?
Let's explain that. Peter Pan was the Pedro Pan, and this is where families actually took their children, and they had the faith of putting their children on a plane and flying them to Miami, with the parents staying back in Cuba, that those families would be reunited. The children arrived here, and where the Catholic services helped settle them, and then ultimately families were reunited. But that was a very difficult step for parents to say, I believe that the best thing for me to do is to give my child up, and I hope I see them again.
That is correct. So how desperate does a parent have to be to actually do that? How bad do the conditions of a country have to be that parents have to literally let their children go from the age of 5 on?
Which, of course, now is the backdrop that explains why people are down here honking horns, celebrating, banging pots and pans.
That is correct.
Okay.
And really, in celebration of their parents and grandparents, like me, I'm American, of Cuban heritage, but I'm here and my grandmother who's not here.
Okay, thank you very much, okay? And so there you go. That's sort of the explanation, as you see.
All right. So that's his side of the story.
Here. Hi. So first of all, your initial reaction when you heard the news?
I started to cry.
Because
of the emotion I knew my father would feel.
Now, your father is still alive.
My dad is alive. Tony, he's 86 years old, and his dream has always been to go back to Cuba. And up to like a year ago, I was going to take him, but now he's, I'm not sure I can do that. But he's just like over the top happy, and took a picture this morning as soon as he found out, with the American flag in front of his home and the Cuban flag in front of his home.
And raising his hand up with a cane over
Raising his cane up in the air. So I've been crying all morning. I have never done this, come to Versailles. I was born in Cuba, but I came here when I was 4. But the emotions that have welled up in me, I never would have imagined.
Pat, I'm curious, your father left Cuba, but why did he leave Cuba? Why did you leave Cuba?
We all left because of communism, and I know people outside of Miami don't necessarily understand that, but the people who lived under Cuba have been tortured, have been murdered. It's a dictatorship. No freedom of speech. You have 15 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and if the refrigerator dies, that's it, you're out of luck. You have to figure it out. So it's just very sad. I have not been able to go back to my homeland, and now I hope to go soon. And I'm wearing my mom. Her name was Daisy. She's not here to see it, but she's with us.
I'm curious, when you see the death of Fidel Castro, and Joy Reid is with us right now, of course she's from Miami and knows this community so well too. Does this represent a shift in Cuba, or is this just symbolic?
I think it's symbolic. I mean, we need a major shift in the government, but for Fidel to die and for us to see the people in Cuba celebrating.
Now, that's a bunch of crap, because the majority of the people that are in Cuba are not celebrating his death. They're basically mourning. So for her to say that the people of Cuba are celebrating, I don't think so. Especially being the fact that Raul, his brother, is still in power. That would just be plain stupid for the people of Cuba to be celebrating his death. So that dumb statement.
They can't do that as easily as we can here. I think it's symbolic, but I do think and hope it will carry us forward to a democratic Cuba.
Okay.
And Carrie,
Thank you very much. I know this is an emotional day for you. Yes.
Carrie,
go
before
ahead.
you let this wonderful young lady go, if you could ask her, there was a sense over the last few years that among younger Cuban Americans, the issue of Castro was less potent, and there was a desire for more openness, more open travel, the ability to send more money home. Is she somebody that wants to see the Cuba embargo dropped, or does she want to see it maintained?
Okay, this is a challenging question for you, because you have your father here and you fled Cuba, 4 years old.
Yes.
But you're also living in a new movement within Miami, where those who didn't actually live under Fidel Castro, but just know the experiences from their parents, are asked, should the United States now drop the embargo? We now have flights. We're moving towards a more open relationship. What do you think? 11 administrations later.
My opinion is very personal, of course, and even my dad agrees, yes, we should lift the embargo because it hasn't worked in, what, 50 plus years? So we need to lift it, but strategically, always keeping in mind that, atrocities aren't happening on the island at the same time that we do lift the embargo. So it has to be very strategic and very watched. But
we have a new president stepping into the office. Your thoughts on that being on his mantle?
Well, either one that would have won. I hope that, this would be at the top of the to-do list. It's very important. It's, an island that's 90 miles away from the United States. So I think it's our duty to protect that island as it is to protect anyone else that's going through these challenges.
Thank you so much for joining us. And that is a hot button topic. It takes a little bit of guts, I think, for you to say that and speak your mind, because there is a general sense here that in the Cuban American community that that embargo, even though we've started to hear people like Pat say, as she did, it's been more people saying that they want to hold that hard line because they believe that opening relations with Cuba in any which way could be considered rewarding the Castro regime, and that's the last thing folks like Pat San Pedro or anybody else who has had to leave that country feels. Joy?
Okay, so you've heard all the stories or comments from the various people. All these people are jumping up and down and also happy. Okay, but a way was made for these people. If you know anything about what this country did for people of Cuba that made it over here, they created legislation that called wet foot, dry foot. So all they had to do was get 1 foot on U.S. soil if they were from Cuba, and they were legit. Now, the majority of the older people, as I stated previously, don't even speak English. Now, 1 or 2 of them do speak English, but the majority of them didn't. And all of these people, if you noticed, told their kids stories. And they've hung on to their stories. Nobody told them or asked them to get over their history, their problems of living in and getting out of Cuba. And it's the same with the Jews. They passed their stories down, and nobody basically dares tell them that they need to get over their history. But it's only when black people tell our stories, when we tell our history, that we're told to get over it, and it doesn't matter, and we weren't slaves, bullshit like that. But, as I stated, it seems like everybody that comes over, and in particular, this particular group, a specific way was made for them. Now, even the people who didn't have money, and a lot of these people that made their way over here, they can say what they want, but they got out, and they got out with some money. But even the ones that didn't, and even the ones who didn't have marketable skills, what they did when they got to Florida, they basically displaced the black people who had previously gone down to Florida to pick produce. Farmers found that they had a cheaper source of labor than paying, poor white people or poor black people who were coming down seasonally. They figured out that it was easier for them to pay immigrants substandard wages, which they would accept. So that asked us out. So you tell me how we were supposed to feel as far as these people coming over here. Now, quiet as is kept, all of these people, okay, have benefited from coming to America. And honestly, they benefited from the social programs that we have in place. These same people, okay, are Donald Trump voters and Republican voters who want to strip away all of those social programs. Translation, they got theirs and screw everybody else. So, again, if they got their stuff taken away from them, yeah, I can understand, their hard feelings about the whole thing, but they're here, their kids are here, and they need to step up and realize that it was America that caused all of this by basically backing the previously corrupt government of Bautista, and it was the people of Cuba that rose up against them. It wasn't, some outside army coming in and trying to dictate to them how they should live. It was the people of Cuba that rose up against Bautista, and Castro was just a leader. And now America got pissed off at him because he wasn't going to fall in line and let the same corruption that took advantage of the majority of the people that lived in Cuba. So here we are today. Let's see what happens. But one thing's for sure, now that relations are starting to open up, they're not going to be able to shut this down. So these people can jump up and down, enjoy themselves, but Cuba is going to be open and things will proceed in whichever direction that they will.